Well, good evening or good morning, everyone. This is Lady Victoria with Victoria School of Etiquette, and I am on here tonight sharing another edition of my Bedtime Chronicles series. The Bedtime Chronicles series is information that I share of things that I have observed or things that I have taken note of, or sometimes information that has been given to me throughout the day or throughout the week that I share with you before I retire for the evening. So, I am Lady Victoria. For those of you that don't know me, Lady Victoria of Victoria's School of Etiquette. And if you are watching on Facebook Live, if you are watching on my YouTube channel, I would like to encourage you to please like, share, and to hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button so that you can be a regular follower of my YouTube channel here. This is my etiquette channel, and we discuss all things etiquette, and we discuss various life situations that just happen day to day. I often say that etiquette is a way of life. It affects everything that we do in life, and we practice etiquette every day, whether we realize it or not. Good manners, bad manners, or somewhere in between, we are practicing etiquette on a regular basis. And so this edition on this evening or this morning, we're going to address Sunday morning etiquette. If you are a regular attendee at any particular church, I'm sure that you see a lot of things that happen in your church that sometimes make you just go, what are they doing? Disruptions of different kinds, babies crying, a lot of other things might be going on at that time that can affect the service, that can affect other congregants that are there. They are attending and they've come to enjoy the service, and there's something going on inside the walls of the church that might make people uncomfortable. So if I can just address a few of the things here today that I would like to share with you, observations that I've made, some things that might happen in my church, and I'm sure some of these things have happened in yours as well. So I would just like to say that when you're attending service and you are a part of the service, if you are on program for that Sunday morning, or be it a special program that afternoon, whatever it is, if you are on program, it looks really bad when you're the one that's late. You're the one that's tardy, and you're supposed to be the service leader, or you are directing the service. If you're the praise and worship leader and you're running late, those things can look bad to the audience. Let me backtrack a little bit. And before I even say that, let me just say, first of all, that you can please feel welcome to share your comments and your questions and what have you. Please do that as well. But let me say about the church house that the church house is supposed to be a place where people come to enjoy the service. People come to get healings of different kinds, whether they be physical, emotional, or what have you. But they come to enjoy really the presence of God that is supposed to reside in the place where you worship. For every person that comes into the building, there should be peace of Jesus Christ, right, that you bring along with you if he resides in you. Now that is another video of a completely different kind, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on that. But I'm really just trying to say that when you come to the church, we're all supposed to be there for one reason and on one accord. Okay, and that is to hear the word of God, to be ministered to, whether you're being ministered to through the music, through the person that is speaking, through a kind word that someone says, a testimony or something. So when you have things that disrupt the service, when you have things that get out of order, we find those things sometimes a little bit distressing, because we want our experience to be a good one while we are there. We want it to be something that's memorable for all of the right reasons. So now I can go back to the first thing on my notes, that if you are a part of the service on that morning, it looks bad when you're not in place where you ought to be when your portion of the service is being presented. So like I said, if you are the praise and worship leader and your team is there, but you are not, and especially if you haven't called to let someone know, you have not designated someone else to stand in your place until you can get there, that looks bad. And the people notice that, especially when your church is structured and you know that this is supposed to take place at such and such time at 10:30. The praise team, takes the stage and the service progresses. So if you are the praise and worship leader, if you are the person that's facilitating the morning service, if you are the person that's coming to say the prayer or have a scripture, be in place. And if for some reason you can't be in place, we all run late sometimes. So when that happens, please try to get in touch with someone and let someone know, because once the service starts, you want it to be smooth, without any hiccups, without any disruptions, if you can possibly help it, especially when you are part of the service, because then that matters, right, on that morning. So when you're there, be there and get there early. In the business world, we oftentimes like to say that if you have an appointment and it's at 9 o'clock and you arrive at 9 o'clock, you're already late, right? Being on time oftentimes in the business world means that you should be at least 15 minutes early. If you arrive right at 9 o'clock, then you're already late, because you have to get there. You have to get yourself settled. If you have a family, then you may need to get your spouse settled with the children. They may be going to a different part of the service. And so all of those things matter. So allow yourself enough time. Allow yourself extra time for traffic, travel conditions, and those kinds of things. I know these are common sense things, but I'm just making mention of them in connection with this video, right? So please arrive early to ensure that you are on time. And then please be in your designated position or your designated post wherever your leader has told you that you should be. So if you're supposed to be down front, sitting on the front row, on the first row, then be there. While the musician is playing background music and you're getting ready to move into the service, just be in your designated spot, wherever that is. Once you are there, there should be no real reason why you should have to leave. So once you're in place, you're in place. You don't then need to get up and go out for something, unless it's something that's really serious. But once you're in your designated spot, stay there so that you can be in position. So when they call for brother so-and-so, then you can be there, or sister so-and-so, you're already there. And then your leader can see that you're there, and he or she feels really good about you being in the right place at the right time at the beginning of service. Excuse me. Or whatever portion of the service that you are going to participate in. So being on time is huge. Then being in correct uniform. If you are part of the team, if you are part of a department or an auxiliary, if you are part of that, then you should also be in the correct uniform if there is one. Of course, if you're ushering, then you should have on the proper attire. If you are wearing gloves, that sort of thing, you should be in proper attire. If you inquire and you are wearing robes, or the colors today are pink tops and blue bottoms and beige jackets, and you come in and you're not properly attired, you don't want to stand out like a sore thumb. So be in the proper attire, as well as being in the proper place at the right time. Those things are important. We also want to be careful when we enter the church house. Like I said, it is a place of reverence. It is a place where regular churchgoers, we have to refer to it as a place where the Spirit of God resides. So we want to be respectful to that. And then there are portions or parts of the church as a whole is to be reverenced and is to be respected. But in particular, the altar and the pulpit. Now, I know when I was coming up in church years ago as a young girl, we were not allowed to run through the church. We were not allowed to laugh and play on the altar. We weren't even allowed to go on the pulpit, not at all. Not in the day and age when I came up. My background is Pentecostal or Protestant, you might say. I grew up in the Churches of God in Christ. And at that time, it just was not allowed. Your children did not come down to the altar and run around and laugh and play. That was a sacred place. You were not allowed on a pulpit, really, unless you were there for a particular reason, getting prayer, unless the pastor or the elders invited you up. It was just a place that children were not allowed. And oftentimes today in churches, children are running around on the altar. They're running back and forth across the pulpit, and nobody's watching. Nobody's watching. Where are the parents? Why are they letting this go on? Why are they allowing it? Maybe they're in another part of the church picking up other children. I don't know. Maybe they ran out to get the car and they left the children there. But oftentimes I see this, I observe it, and it's just something that should not be allowed. Church is a place of sacredness. And again, the altar and the pulpit is a place that is truly sacred, and it should be honored and respected as such. In the Bible days, the regular congregants really could not even enter into the altar. That was a place that was reserved for the priests, and they weren't even allowed that kind of entry. And so it was because of a reverence and a respect for God's place. And it was carried out in those days. And actually today in the church, it's no different. The church is still a place to be respected. So we need to mind our manners and be careful of how we entertain ourselves when we're in that place, when we're in that special place, which then brings me to conversation. The kind of conversation sometimes that you overhear the people of God discussing in church, on the altar, where there are many ears listening and eyes watching, your very personal lives should not be discussed openly in a place where anybody and everybody can hear. People are subject to misinterpretation of what you might be saying, misunderstanding of what you might be saying or sharing, and perhaps you are sharing it in confidence with the person that you're speaking with. And if that is the case, then find a place. Find a place in the sanctuary, or just leave the church, period. You don't have to discuss it. If you're in a counseling situation with your leadership, you wouldn't be in an open position out there just talking like that. You would be in the office, or you would be in the counseling room in a place that is reserved for that. So if you're sharing something with your girlfriend from church, just keep it private and personal. Don't talk about it in a way that other people can hear it, absorb it, and make mention of it themselves later. Oh, girl, did you hear what Sister So-and-so was talking about? Sister Malibu was talking about brother, and the things I overheard. Or sometimes it may not be the adults, but sometimes as parents, we oftentimes have to train our children to not repeat things that go on at home. I've always said in my home, whatever goes on in this house, it stays in this house. We resolve it in this house. We take care of it in this house. And so you want to be careful about the things that you might share openly, because again, you never know who is listening, and you never know that your words might be misconstrued, misunderstood. And while you're sharing it with your best friend, sometimes the people that are listening, they're then sharing it with their best friend. And do they really need to know what's going on in Brother and Sister Malibu's home? They do not. Do they really need to know what's going on with your finances? They do not. There are certain things that you just don't discuss openly in a setting that does not require it. So then that brings me back to our children, again, to our young children. I talked about them running across the pulpit and things like that. And we know that sometimes our children, are tired. Sometimes the services might be long and they get restless. And so afterwards, they feel that they just have the freedom to just go and to just run and to just be. Well, I think as parents that we need to put that in check, because again, we are honoring the sanctuary. And we are honoring the place that we are in. So it should not be allowed. Parents, if you would sometimes have a conversation with your children before you leave home. They're toddlers. I understand all of that. But just have a discussion. And when you put those things, you institute those things from the very beginning, and you put them in place before you leave home. When you arrive at church, it shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be an issue at all. So let's talk about children that are disruptive in some way. Maybe they're just having a bad day. They're little people, but sometimes they have a bad day too, and they're entitled to have a bad day. And when they do, of course, they're going to be fussier than usual. They may be complaining about things. They just may be uncomfortable. They may not be feeling well and all of those things. Parents are the best assessors of what's really going on with their child. But if you find that your child has become so disruptive until you can't handle them in the pew where you're sitting, or in the chair where you're sitting, the seat where you're sitting, then it is proper to excuse yourself and go out into the lobby, or go out into the mother's room, or go out into the restroom. Find yourself a position where you can get things under control with your child before re-entering the service. And you want to re-enter and hope that your child is not going to be disruptive again, so that they are encroaching upon the fellow members of the church and they can't enjoy the service, the sermon, or the choir, or whatever is going on at that time. They can't enjoy it because your child has gotten out of order. Now, sometimes, children children are out of order. And so sometimes the poor parents are pushed to the limit. And so you might have another church member. Sorry, I'm going to adjust here a little bit more. You may have another church member, maybe a church mother, an usher, or someone else in your pew that just simply says, you know what? May I take them? Let me take them out. Let me take them out. Again, parents, you are the best assessors of what's going on with your child. And if it is another parishioner that you know and that you have somewhat of a relationship with, and you may feel comfortable handing your child over without feeling like that they're going out there into the back of the church, around back out into the backyard, and give your child the whooping or the spanking of their life. So you trust this person. So it's okay. It may be okay sometimes. Sometimes that may be just what the child needs, to sometimes be in the arms of someone else for whatever reason. Now, the flip side to that is, what if you don't trust the person? What if you don't feel comfortable handing your child over? Maybe on today you just feel like, no, we're going to deal with this, my child and I, and it's going to be okay. And so if you're aggravated, if you're upset, or you're feeling frustrated, there's a way to be polite and respectfully decline. Say, well, you know what? Mother Washington, I thank you for wanting to step in, but that's okay. I can handle little Johnny, or I can handle little Susie. Thank you so much for offering, and I appreciate your efforts. Maybe at another time when the child is feeling better, maybe they can sit with you for a little while, or maybe you can spend some time with them down in children's church or something. But just respectfully decline. Respectfully decline. You don't have to, that's not the time to put your salvation down and then go to the altar later. So don't get snappy with Mother Washington or, Brother Bob or whomever. Just respectfully decline and just say, no, thank you. I appreciate it. But no, I'll just take her out and we'll be okay. But thank you for offering. I truly appreciate it. So you can just leave it at that and be nice about it. Be thoughtful. Be considerate. They're being considerate of you, thinking that they can offer some assistance. So if you must decline, just do it respectfully. Now, this is another area. I haven't seen this in a while, but I think that is still worthy of addressing. When you have infant children and they are with you in the main service, and you need to attend to that child, you need to attend to the infant, whether they are being nursed, whether they need to be changed. There's a facility for that. To excuse yourself and go to the back of the church, or if you're sitting at the end of the pew against the wall, and for you to turn backside. and change your child, change the baby in the main sanctuary of the service, I'm sorry, mother or dad or big brother or sister, you are completely out of order. You are completely out of order. Please, 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 people of God, do not change your infant child in the main sanctuary of the church. Even when you cover up with a blanket, you know what's going on. And if the diaper is full and our noses are offended, please excuse yourself to the proper facilities and take care of that. We really don't need to see their cute little bottoms. Look at that pew. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Not at all. Please excuse yourself to the mother's room. Your church doesn't have a mother's room? You can excuse yourself to the restroom or to the facilities and take care of that. Thank you so very much. And then, even when you're doing that in the church, for years they've been making these scented diaper bags that when you have to change the infant child, you can put the soiled diaper in that perfumey, odor-absorbing bag and then drop it in the trash. When my children were small, they did have those bags then, and I did use them, and I didn't always leave it in the receptacle in the restroom at church. I put that in that bag. I put it in another bag, and I put it in a different compartment in my diaper bag, and I disposed of it when I left the church building because maybe the janitor's not coming to take the trash out that day. Maybe he's coming Monday morning to clean the church. And so, I think you get the picture. Right? So, please, the other issue is breastfeeding moms. Now, let me say up front that I am an advocate for all moms that breastfeed. I am a mother of 4, and I breastfed all of mine. I breastfed them until they were at least a year old. But I did not breastfeed them publicly. And I did not breastfeed them in the church house. Again. No, not in the sanctuary. Even when you have on the little pouchy thing that you can put the baby in and they're resting comfortably, and even when you have on a proper breastfeeding type shirt or covering, it is still hugely inappropriate to breastfeed your child in the main sanctuary of the church. Please, Mom, excuse yourself to the facilities and go and enjoy. A lot of the churches are set up in structure where if you have to do that, there may be a monitor in there so you can still enjoy the service. And if not a monitor, at least you can hear the audio of the sermon or the singing that's going on. And you can enjoy. And please do those things privately and not publicly in the main sanctuary. And if you find yourself in that position and one of the ushers or even one of the nurses comes to assist you, please respectfully and gratefully take their help, and they will help to escort you to the proper place in the church to do that. Because you don't want people saying, they do that in the church? They do that in the church? Let's not. Please don't be one of those. We live in such a world today where so many different things are going on. So many different things happen. I stopped watching the regular news on a regular basis because it's sad and depressing. And sometimes it's offensive, the things that are labeled newsworthy. And one of the things that bothers me the most are fights that break out in places where you would think that they wouldn't. Fights that break out at weddings. Why? Why? Why is that happening? Fights that break out at funerals? Again, why? What in the world? Fights that break out in church? My mind I cannot conceive that. I just can't wrap my mind around why a fight would break out at church. Why? Have you no respect for the church at all? Have you no respect for your leadership? What about your family that it is? So you're not thinking about them? You're not thinking about your leadership? You're not thinking about the church? You're not thinking about your family? You've completely forgotten that this is a godly, sacred place. So you've completely forgotten about that. You have no respect for yourself, that you would allow yourself to be caught up in a fight, something of that nature, in the actual church house. I don't mean outside on the sidewalk, which doesn't make it much better, but in the church itself, in the main sanctuary, in the overflow room, out in the lobby, any place within the four walls, within the confines of the four walls of the church, where a fight breaks out, you are so out of order. You have no shame when you take it to that level. I'm sorry. There is not an etiquette rule that makes that okay. Not at all. So go, redo, repent, and undo what you can. You can't undo the fight because it already happened. You can't take it back because it already happened. Some of the things we discussed. Publicly breastfeeding. No, I'm all for breastfeeding, but not in the church. Some things just shouldn't be in the church. So those are just some of the things that I have observed of late. And like I said, a couple of things that I haven't seen lately, and I'm glad that I haven't. Thank you for improvements. Thank you for respecting the house of God. It doesn't matter what your faith is, whether you're Pentecostal, whether you're Protestant, Catholic, Lutheran, it doesn't matter. When you come into the place of worship, when you come into the place that is set aside for fellow believers to worship together, it is completely out of order for you to do anything else that does not support that. And it doesn't matter what kind of church facility you is, whether you are in a cathedral, whether you are in a medium-sized church, a large church, whether you are in a storefront, whether you are in the basement of someone's home, the living room of someone's home. This is the place that they have chosen and set aside to hold service, to worship, right? This is the place where we are coming together with a common mindset and a common goal. And for these kinds of disruptions to go on, it is offensive. It is out of order. It is disrespectful, and it lacks all of the essential protocols of what should go on a Sunday morning in the church house. God is a God of order. His word speaks about let everything be done decent and in order. So coming to church and just putting down, just lowering your guard and not having any restraints for what goes on in the church. That means to me that as an individual, you need to sit down and check yourself as church leaders and those in authority. When we see these things going on in our churches, then it's time to have a meeting with the church. because those things can only continue to happen if you allow them. You teach people what's okay, but what you allow to happen, right, between you and them. So if you're the pastor, or if you are the senior minister, or you are the senior mother, a part of the mother board, so if you are in a leadership position in your church, you should have some authority somewhere. If you can't correct it, then at least be able to go to your leadership and say, this is what I've been observing, and I think that we need to correct it. Because if you let it go on for too long, then people just think that it's okay, and they just behave that way all the time. There's no filter, and that's not good. So on a Sunday morning, and I'm saying Sunday morning, but it really is anytime that the church doors are open. The church is always a place of reverence and respect, not just on a Sunday morning, but anytime the doors are open. We should always be mindful of how we behave. We should be mindful of how we carry ourselves. We should be mindful of the words that we speak. We should be mindful of how we carry ourselves. What if you were a guest and you went to someone's church and you saw these things? Would you want to come back? Maybe not. You wouldn't want to come back to a church where a fight broke out, or you notice these things and everybody seems to be okay with it. Chronic tardiness. Now, I can speak on this personally because there was a time when I just couldn't seem to get where I needed to go on time. There was a time when I couldn't seem to get to church on time. So that was something that I personally had to work on as an individual. I had to reassess what's going on in my life until I can't get here on time. I wasn't really late for work. I wasn't tardy for work. I wasn't tardy for other appointments and other things. But I went through a season where I was always running behind. I was always running and rushing to get there and to get there on time. So I'm not pointing the finger and saying, hey, you're a bad person, because I've been there myself. And so I know what it's like. But I had to reassess what was going on in my life and what was going on in my church. Did I not consider it important enough? I had to reevaluate my vertical relationship with God Almighty, because I felt for myself that I was being disrespectful unto Him. I was being disrespectful unto God. So I had to really check my relationship and find out where was I lacking that I couldn't get to where I needed to get to in a timely fashion to do what I needed to do while I was there. Now, there were plenty of other times when I was there on time and it just wasn't an issue at all. I understand when we are coming home from work. I understand when we are coming home from different appointments or what have you. You have meetings, what have you, that are going on maybe on a weeknight. On a Sunday morning, you should be free and clear. Not many work on a Sunday morning. Some do. It depends on what shift you work and the kind of work that you do in the industry that I work as a regular JOB. Yes, it requires me to work oftentimes on Sundays. And so, but that's another whole issue. But I'm just saying that these are things where we have to sometimes turn the spotlight inward and find out what's really going on with us and why we can't do the things that we need to do where God is concerned and where the church is concerned. So this is Lady Victoria, and I just wanted to share this bedtime chronicle with you. These are things that I have noticed and observed over the days and over the weeks, and I thought that it was appropriate to address it now. So anyway, I hope that you enjoy, and I would like for you to please like, share with your followers. If you're watching me on Facebook, please like and share. Those of you that are watching me on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Those of you that are watching me on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate you becoming a part of our community, and you can share your concerns, your questions, and your comments as well. And oh my gosh, there was one other thing that I was going to say. Oh, for the replay viewers, for all of the replay viewers, thank you. Thank you for taking time out to watch and to subscribe. So on Sunday night. This is Lady Victoria of Victoria School of Etiquette sharing with you Bedtime Chronicles. So I wish all of you a good night and or a good morning. And I would that you would be in your best etiquette health. Until the next time, I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.